6 o'clock. And note that quorum has been achieved. I need a mover and a seconder.
Councillor Manson and Councillor Latimer.
Next item is the Council for the Corporation of the Municipality of Calvin hereby approves the agenda as circulated. I need a mover and a seconder.
Councillor Manson. Councillor Grant. Oh, you're not voting on it though. You forgot to vote.
You're right. So on the first motion regarding the starting of the meeting, are all in favor? All in favor, carried. And the second resolution regarding the agenda, all in favor? All in favor. The next item is regarding declarations of disqualifying pecuniary and conflict of interest. Is there anybody with a conflict of interest or pecuniary?
No.
None declared, none declared. Next item is approval of minutes for the last regular council meeting, August the 27th, 2024. Approved as presented and circulated. A mover and a seconder.
Councillor Latimer and Manson.
Any agenda or amendments to the minutes or corrections? None. All in favor? Carried. Next item for the agenda is special delegations. We have a presentation tonight from Mayor Belanger from the municipality of Mattawa. Mr. Mayor Belanger, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Morton, Council. Thank you very much for inviting us, and we're quite happy to be here. I brought our CEO Treasurer Paul LePerrier with us. Thank you to your clerk also to make this happen for us. And a very short ask, and you accommodate us immediately. It's much appreciated.
If you can approach, we have a table for you.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I don't have to start over, do I?
It's all on tape.
Okay. The reason we're here this evening is it's to deliver some facts. There's been a lot of rumors on what happened to the John Dixon Library in town. I know that we prepared a slide deck for you to follow. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to our CAO. And if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them or provide you an answer somehow. And with no further delay, Paul, if you want to.
Thank you.
Take it from here.
Nice seeing members of council again, and like Mayor Belanger said, thank you for the opportunity to meet with you guys today. This will not take very long, but there's been a lot of misinformation about the library, and we would just wanted an opportunity to sort of make sure that we're all on the same page and understand what the facts are around the library. I didn't put it in here, but I dug up a document that Mayor Belanger had shared with me. This appeared in the Mattawa Recorder a couple of months ago, maybe. And it was about the history of the library. And the salient point out of that is that the library has been in existence since 1957. I just thought I'd share that with you. So that's 67 years that it's been around. And it's been in the article, I could find it and dig it up for you if you're interested, but there's been a half a dozen places where it's called its home over those 67 years, and it's bounced around. Its last place was at FJ McGilligan, where it was there till the end of this July. And basically, the makeup of the library today, it's made up of municipalities of Mattawa, Calvin, and Papineau-Cameron. And there's been various members. Right now, up until the end of July, there were 227 active cardholders, which interestingly enough, from over 2022, increased from 157. There were 69%. So they're not big numbers, but they're big percentages. And so I just thought I'd share that. And this year, 2024, the landlord, which is the school board, met with myself. They met with the library board and really had an honest discussion as to the fit of a library in a school. And really what the realization is that it doesn't really work well with the school. For one, the head of a school is the principal. The principal sets the rule as to who comes, who goes, who stays, what hours they are, and so on. The library is a bit of a different sort of raison d'etre in that they want to be open at night for the public. They maybe want to be open on weekends for people to go. And the principal says, well, you know, we don't have classes on the weekend. Why should we be open? Kind of mentality. So after many discussions, it was decided that it'd be best if they were to part ways. And the library board came to Mattawa Council in late spring and announced that the lease with the landlord would not be renewed at the end of July, and that the library would be temporarily closing its doors until such time as a new locale could be obtained or secured. So that's kind of where we've been. Where we are today is that the library is still closed. We being the town of Mattawa, helped the library move all of its contents, all of its books, all of its resource material out of the school board. We've kept them here in Mattawa and to a dry, safe place. We put the furniture in storage, and while we sort of help the library board find a new locale. And right now, the library board is looking internally and trying to define and redefine what a library looks like. A library 67 years ago, very different than what a library would be today. Technology has changed so much. You know, there's these internet cafes type mentalities that books are available online. So it needs to be relooked at, and they're doing that, and we encourage them to find or reinvent itself and try to help them find a new locale. So that begs the question, well, where are we going? And so obviously the success of the library will rest with, you know, the members whom the library will serve. I think that, and we think that all member municipalities should have a voice as to what that future looks like. And including, you know, how it should be funded. The model should be well understood. The province, as you know, backed out. I think it was, you know, in the 2016, 17, 18, around there, the current government curtailed sort of the funding to the libraries, and that has made it difficult and for municipalities to help fund the libraries. But nonetheless, I think having all the members having a voice and a representation on what we call a stakeholder group, and I think that would sort of help define what that library should look like. So I think with that, one of the things that we're looking at and that the library is looking at is having a stakeholder group, being a member from each of the 4 municipalities, having somebody from the library board, somebody from the current site that we're looking at, and I think it's no secret, but one of the sites that we're looking at is the museum, for the simple reason that Mattawa owns the museum building, so they don't have to rent it, they already own it. There's space there, it's underutilized. And really the museum is closed for half the year during the winter, from basically Thanksgiving to the May long weekend. And so I think having a library there makes sense. Just got to get the players to play nice and understand what it's going to do. So I think the museum should have a member on that stakeholder group to determine if it is going to work or if another locale needs to be found. And lastly, I think as a staff, right now, I will put myself on that committee, but if the locale would be somewhere other than Mattawa, because we're not stuck on it being in Mattawa, I think it could be anywhere. Really, it's more important to have one, less important where. And then therefore, if it wasn't in another municipality, then the CAO or a designate of that municipality should be on that committee. So basically, in conclusion, the action items, I think one is we'd like to know, and we don't have to know this minute, but we'd like council to let us know if the municipality of Calvin is interested in being part of the library. So I think that's the first thing that we'd like to know. Two, if interested, would the municipality also be interested in having a representative on a stakeholder group who would help define what that library would look like. And like I said, right now it's the one site that's being considered is the museum, but there may be other places that need to be examined. So that is kind of where we're at. That's our presentation, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you. I think that was a great presentation. And it's very interesting because libraries were very different before. And what does the library look like today? What does it look like tomorrow? So I think it's a really interesting project to go through and then maybe the answer is maybe there's no more use for a library. That would be a shame. But the only one way to find out is to go through the exercises and do what you're doing and ask the question. So I think it's a great idea. I don't have any particular questions for you, but I like that you're also suggesting that people from the community could be the representative, because I think it's important that someone have the passion for books, and someone I'm sure would be really pleased to take an active role in that. So thank you for coming and doing the presentation. I don't have any other real questions, just a comment or two, and I think it's an excellent idea.
If I follow up, if I may, thank you for that comment. And yeah, there might be individuals in the community that, like you say, are very passionate about libraries, and therefore, why restrict membership to maybe a member of council? I think councils are already taxed on various committees and so on. And if a member of a community in Calvin was interested, I think that'd be wonderful. If it is somebody from council, then great as well. So, but we'd be looking for one person.
I have a question. Timeline, do you have one? Like how you're looking for people, funding, what's your timeline?
Well, very good question. Thank you. Right now we are going around all municipalities and making the same presentation. We met with Pepino Cameron at the end of August, and tonight we're here. Next week we're with the library board and the museum board, and then at the beginning of October we're meeting with Matawan. And so that's sort of the immediate timeline. And then I'm hoping to have heard by then if there's an interest from each municipality, and if there is, whom that representative would be. And then we would call a first meeting immediately after, and then start the discussion as to what it looked like, where is the locale suitable, and then get into the reality of it. Is the library doesn't operate for free, so let's be realistic. There's just some costs involved, and what might that look like? And yeah, so that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, so sometime in November. That's my final.
Fair statement.
Okay.
Anything from Councillor Grant?
I don't have much to add. I think it's a great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, the only question I had was, do we currently have a seat on the current board?
I
Calvin?
believe
No.
Okay. And do you know how many of those 227 active members, do you know if any of them are from Calvin, or how many of them?
honestly, I do not. I regret to say that. I think the library in a future state needs to do a better job of capturing that information. Intuitively, there are members of this municipality, there are active cardholders, but I cannot give you at this point a definite number.
That's no problem. It's something that the staff will be looking into over the next couple of weeks. And I just thought if you already had it, it'd save them some work.
Yeah, I'm sure the library board probably has,
They might.
who owns the cards.
Thank you. And thank you for your presentation. It was very informative. Any other questions? Okay, I understand that we're going to put this over to the next meeting for a staff report on recommendations.
Thank you.
Are we?
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
gentlemen.
Counselor Morton, can I interrupt for a second then? Is there a motion that you want me to do something before the next meeting?
Well, in the agenda review, we talked about finding out how many are having an study or a survey to find out the interest. Like I think Councillor Manson said that having a library is a very beneficial infrastructure for the communities, but maybe it's not going to work out for this area, and they might have to go to another jurisdiction. We talked about the kilometer difference between the two nearest libraries. So those are questions that could be answered by a survey or interest, and the library grant, where that money would go, and whether it's worth, or whether it's helping to fund the project.
So before the next council meeting, you want staff to get community interest?
I don't know if you can get it before the next. Mayor Belanger said they were meeting with Matawan in October and hoping to move forward with this in November. To save stress on the staff. Maybe I would recommend that for the first meeting in October would be give you a whole month to do it.
Could we, you did ask the presenters to do a poll on their card holders. How many are from Calvin? Perhaps we could do the same from Bonfield to see if people are going there and paying out of pocket. Maybe there's 1, maybe there's 10. That would be a little bit simpler than trying to do a survey in Calvin Township. I don't know how you do that.
But there's other, maybe the programs are better at even North Bay libraries, and maybe that's the choice that Calvinites would make, to go to the bigger library or the closer library. I know we have that little box outside the town hall that's got books in it, but doesn't serve all age groups. And they larger centers have more active libraries where they have projects for different age groups and seniors, etc.
So is the direction that you want me to learn from before the next meeting from the librarians? I do know that as they alluded to, that libraries have to track card number holders and where they come from. So is the direction of how many patrons currently are with the Bonfield and Mattawa Library?
Yeah, that would be helpful, but rather than put the stress of 2 weeks, what about the first meeting in October?
There's no stress on that. It's a phone call. They have cards, so they
Okay,
have. It's the survey of, if you were surveying community, that's something we'd have to get on right away. And it wouldn't be.
If it's not an imposition on staff to make it 2 weeks, then I'm fine with 2 weeks.
Yeah, to learn how many patrons are registered at each library, it's a phone call. They have the stats, they know the numbers. A survey to the community is a different thing. If they're interested in library.
So that's your motion, the motion?
I'm asking you what you want me to put in the motion.
The motion would be that we resolve that staff will contact the library boards of Mattawa and Bonfield to find out how many residents are active in their membership.
Um, One further thing is, now, you know, maybe also, do we not receive, and this could just be included in a report, I mean, is there funds that we receive from the province?
Mhm.
That we then can contribute to libraries, so just, well, you know, maybe what value that is, just some basic stuff, I think is all we need at this point, really, just some basic background.
I can tell you that right now. It's, in the last 2 years, we have not received that grant because we've not been able to obtain the information necessary from the librarian in order to complete the report that Ontario Library Services North requires us to do so. It's a flow-through fund and it's less than $1,200.
Yeah.
It's $1,166 or $77. And we've not flowed that money through in the last 2 years because we haven't been able to get the information required to complete the, from the librarian that only they would host and have.
Yeah, so about $1,200
Yeah.
that we can get as a grant.
Yeah, we're missing out on, but we're not really missing out on much of that grant because it goes to whatever, it has to go to the library board. So somebody on the library board's missing out on that money because we're not getting that information.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so if I might then, Councillor Morton, the motion would read, that staff investigate, obtain from, the Bonfield and Mattawa libraries, how many patrons from Calvin are active in their libraries, and to bring that forward to the next council meeting.
I agree. Plus, anybody that watches this video presentation, if they are not part of either, maybe they could contact the office and add their names to the list.
Well, we can't add the name to the list unless
No.
they're live.
No, that's what I mean. They may want to join. You know what I mean? It shows an interest in going to Mattawa. It doesn't have to be added to the resolution. It's just a comment to the people who watch this video that if they're interested in joining one or the other.
To contact the libraries. I know.
Well, we are looking to see if there's interest from Calvin in either Bonfield or Mattawa's library.
So we need to survey the community then to get that.
Well, if that's your recommendation to do a survey, then do a survey.
The only way that we would know that.
I don't want to do a survey right now. No, it's only,
If you do a survey, it's going to take more than 2 weeks to get a response, even if you get a response.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I want to make sure I get the directions right here. Yeah. Okay, just that.
Just contact the 2 library boards.
Okay, so we need a mover and a seconder for that.
I'll move it.
And, Councillor Manson a seconding. And vote.
All in favor?
We're good.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda informations, and that's just there for information purposes. Next item on the agenda is a report from the CEMC. Julie Daniel, you're on the floor.
All right, I'll try not to make this too long. The municipality is required to pass resolutions through council to create an emergency management program committee. And so this is a planning group and a municipal emergency control group, which is the action group. So tonight, I guess to start things off and get things in motion, we need to, work on putting together the emergency management, what is it? Program committee. So that consists of the CMC, which is myself, a senior municipal official, and head of council and an alternate as appointed, and municipal employees who are responsible for emergency management functions like public works and fire. And they also need someone to chair the committee. It should be made up of members of our own municipality. And this would be the initial committee made. And then once that committee is made, then the other committee can be made, as well as figuring out where the emergency operations center would be, and the reception center, and maybe the locations for shelters. So it might take a few meetings to get everything in together, but that is the first part of it. And also, we need to appoint an emergency information officer, and that will be done at the initial meeting for that as well. And that is somebody who would be writing up reports to send out to media and public. But it wouldn't necessarily be the person that would be doing the announcing, which would probably be head of council. All right. All right. So, Councillor Morton and I went to a meeting with Bernie Darrable, who is the Deputy Minister and Commissioner of Emergency Management in Ontario. And so following COVID, Premier Ford realized that Ontario was not prepared. And he gave Bernie the go-ahead to make Ontario prepared. And so there's going to be a lot of emphasis on getting emergency management in a better functioning condition in the near future, I believe. So I know that our municipality is small, and it's going to probably take most of the members to accomplish the things that need to be done. But the municipality hasn't been in compliance since 2021. And there is a grant that's coming up shortly. And according to the person that I talked to at Emergency Management Ontario, she doesn't think we'll qualify. We probably won't qualify because we aren't compliant. So we'll try and see if we can work around that and maybe get some special favor or something, but we need to try and get our compliance done, and I will do my utmost to make that happen by the end of next year.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. If I can add just a couple of things, just to emphasize the non-compliance issue. Julie and I had meetings and discussions, and before Julie was officially hired with Emergency Management Ontario, and the non-compliance issue is a big deal. And there's been some questions. We chatted with her about the fact that we do have a joint plan with the municipality of Papineau-Cameron, but we still need these committees of our own. So that was the first question, as Julie, that I had a number of times. Is what we do. We partner with Papineau-Cameron. We have this committee, and that's not enough. We still need these particular committees with persons named to the positions that Emergency Management Ontario requires us as a municipality to have. And as recent as today, when I called Diane again to say, just to be sure again about the partnership that we have with Papineau, it doesn't count for what we need in place, and what we need in place is found within Julie's report. So sooner than later, so that we can be compliant and are able to access the funding, we need some bodies to decide the things that we need in order to bring us into compliance. And the first motion that you have before you after receiving Julie's report is to appoint that committee with the terms of reference that it meet couple of times, we should be able to, I don't think there's a lot to do in this first meeting, just to bring us into compliance, get the committees, people named committees and roles. And we really don't have a choice in many of them because they name who they are already, right? Head of council and an alternate, CMC, senior municipal official, somebody in public works, somebody in fire. We don't really have a choice in who we put there. We don't have a lot of bodies, as Julie said. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is that the budget for this year for Julie's time is only $4,000. And with all the meetings that are happening, because Ontario government is really pushing this forward for everyone, and because we're out of compliance, Julie's running out of time. And so I am going to be checking with one of our current sources of funding that we're underspent from OSIF to see if we can get the plan in place through that source of funding, and then it's not going to be borne, on the tax dollars. So I have a call in next week with OSIF to discuss that. So because without Julie, we don't have committees because she needs to be on the committees and to continue the work. So that's thank you, Julie.
And I've been rationing my hours because I know that I don't have as much.
Hey, Julie, thank you very much for your report. I'm a mover and a seconder to accept her report.
Councillor Grant and Councillor Morton.
And all in favor? Next item is the motion regarding this Emergency Management Program Committee, an Emergency Management Control Group, designated Emergency Information Officer. Now therefore be it resolved that council appoint the following persons to the Municipality of Calvin's Emergency Management Program Committee: Julie Daniel, the CEMC, Donna Maitland, Senior Municipal Officer, Mayor Richard Gould, Head of Council, Ann Carr, Public Works Superintendent, and Marielle Lebrecq, Fire Chief. And further recognizing the mayor is currently on a short-term leave of absence from council and the requirement for this committee to meet as soon as possible, that until the return from the leave of absence, the Deputy Mayor Bill Morton be appointed as head of council's alternative on this committee. Any questions?
Councillor Morton, I just have one after having written the motion, recognizing today that you're away until the end of the month, which means you wouldn't be able to meet. Should we appoint someone else in the interim from council to sit on this committee so that we can get moving to become in compliance, so that we have access to that funding that's coming up and get it back in the good books of Emergency Management Ontario? Just a suggestion and observation.
I agree. So who would be available?
We're talking one.
We're talking Councillor Manson or Councillor Grant, because everybody else is out of town.
Is it virtual? Could it be virtual? When is it? What time? During the day, evening?
Well, if it's virtual, I can do it.
Even if you're out of the country?
Yeah. As long as there's internet, virtual works. Councillor Latimer is virtual. If it's virtual, yeah, that opens the door. If it's late, if it's not until October, it could be that the mayor will be back.
It would have to happen in September, and Julie's nodding because we need to rush this.
There you go. Is it virtual or not?
It will be up to the membership. I mean, we're not saying, we've never said no one, people cannot participate. I don't think at this council virtually.
No, we've always allowed,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've been very open to virtual participation. I don't see a problem with it, so. I mean, I think that if Mr. Councillor Morton can attend virtually, then I don't see a problem with leaving it as is.
You good? I just wanted to check your availability, because knowing that you're, as you know, I didn't recognize or realize or remember until we met this week that you're actually gone most of this month, so.
If you want somebody physically in the room, that you've got the other two councillors sitting right beside you.
So it's up to you to decide who you want to put here in the interim.
Well, the question actually is going to go to Julie, because if it's not going to be a virtual meeting, she's got two choices. If it can be virtual, she's got four choices.
Julie's nodding, it's not up to her, it's up to you.
Doesn't matter.
We just said if people want to attend virtually, they can.
Oh, if they're going to be virtual, then good. I guess we'll leave it as is.
So a mover and a seconder? Councillor Manson and Grant.
All in favor? Carried. The next item, council delegate authority to the newly formed Emergency Management Committee to appoint members to the committee group, appoint emergency information officer, and designate the municipality's emergency operations center. And further, that council, recognizing the urgency of its need to be compliant with this emergency planning responsibility, requests the Emergency Management Program Committee, whose terms of reference are laid out in the CEMC report presented to council and the state, meet as soon as possible and then if at all possible prior to the end of September. A mover and a seconder.
Councillor Latimer and Councillor Manson.
All in favor?
If we could excuse Julie if she'd like to leave now, so you don't have to stay for the full meeting, usually allow staff to leave.
No.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Learn.
Okay, the next item is the report from Public Works. Ann Carr, you're on the floor.
Thank you, Counselor. It's the road report that a manager would give to the council. The Boundary Road project has been completed, as well as the sections on Peddlers. It did turn out nicely until this weekend. There's some deficiencies in the last 100 meters on Boundary from the railway tracks to the highway. We already met with Duncor yesterday, and they will be out to rectify the deficiencies. The ditching on Mount Pleasant has been completed. The project included 240 hours of ditching, as well as a triaxle that we contracted, as well as our 2 departmental tandems and 2 workers. This project was not included in the levy. It turned out very well. And as you can see from the rainfalls that we've had, the ditching is working well. The department had purchased a pickup truck just before I had arrived. We have found that we are saving dollars on not paying kilometers for municipal staff to be driving their own vehicles. Actually, I don't believe we've incurred one single dime of kilometers traveled in that vehicle or the use of another person's vehicle. We had a good washout on Peddlers Drive. Beaver Dam had let go. Beaver dams are often located, I notice, in the municipality of Calvin on private lands, which makes it difficult for public works staff to rectify matters. We currently do not have a trapper on staff, and we also do not have a budget to pay someone to trap them. A lot of municipalities have been using beaver bylaws so that we may be able to get that entrance onto private property to maintain beaver dams before it ruins the infrastructure of the municipality. I'm going to work on that and bring it forward to council in the October meeting for consideration. Both of the tandem plow trucks have been certified. The 2015 International only above the cost of the certification, it only required a 40% part. And the emissions test actually came back as 0.0%. This is the last time the vehicles can be safetied under this legislation. The new legislation requires a mechanic to hold an iPad and walk through the vehicle and do the certification, and then the MTO is on that other end of the iPad. And they're going through the certification as well, and then sticker is delivered to us as part of the MTO's new structure for certification. We changed the cross culvert down on Morrow Road at the Beaver Dam, and one at Mount Pleasant that we found when we were ditching. And I started on August the 19th. I thought I got that. That's my report for what happened this month. So in next month or this month, we still have the gravel program to complete. And as well as we're changing out the bladder on the rink. We have some soft spots we'd like to do, some shouldering we would like to do on peddlers. And as well as got to make sure that we're prepared for winter by getting the plows and wings and everything ready. As the snow set on Saturday, maybe that might be sooner than later. That's all I have for you, Councillor Martin.
Thank you very much for your report. Very informative. Is anybody got a question?
I was just curious about that, the Beaver Dam situation. So what do you do if you find a consistent spot that is problematic and you see on private property there is a dam that's contributing? What's the plan?
So generally, we try to reach out to the homeowner or the property owner to see if we can access. Unfortunately, though, beavers, as soon as you open a dam, a beaver hears water running, so they go right to the dam to dam it again. So that's the sound that they live for. The best method would be to trap them and relocate them to heaven. And but I currently don't know of a trapper in the area. Now that there's not a price on fur anymore, there's not that need for that. Generally, we would be paying a trapper to trap instead of them wanting to trap the beaver because there's actually worth in it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you're going to report back on this situation next report, right?
Yes.
I just wanted to throw a quick comment in on this because in terms of I'm a licensed trapper. But when we did, when I did my trapping course, it was some outrageous statistic that the Trappers Association, and they're actually the largest, I believe to be the largest natural fur trading house in the world is in North Bay. So this is huge amount of furs moving through North Bay. But it was some outrageous number, like 300 million, $300 million in infrastructure is saved or prevented by trappers. So trappers are actually traditionally they're doing a public service for the price of a fur. But there are issues that the furs, there's issues in the price of furs. It's much more difficult nowadays to find trappers to trap beavers. But it's a real thing. It's an important thing. It used to just take care of itself. And I predict that there might be more of a cost in the future to control beavers just because of the price of furs and the politics and the lack of trappers. But anyway, just some general comments there. And one last comment. I think it says in the report that the truck's being shared between the departments. And I think that's fantastic. We're obviously a small municipality, so the more that we can do to share the resources that we have, the better. And so that's encouraging to see in the report as well.
Thank you.
Very good.
Some
Any other questions?
Well, I think you could still find trappers. It's becoming more challenging to locate those people. And just as a comment, the fur harvester in North Bay basically knows, they know the active trappers, and they can be a great resource as well for locating trappers and finding people that they know who's trading furs, and if they know someone in the area, it's a very extremely friendly group of people. It's a fantastic kind of community and to be a part of, the trapping community. So maybe networking can help us with our problem as well.
Yeah.
I just have one comment to make, and as she said, did begin August 19th, and it feels like she's been here for as long as I have, and it's been such a welcome to have Anne here. It's taken a load off of my everyday to have somebody so knowledgeable, experienced, and, you know, that staff, it's really, so thank you for all the hard work that you've done in the short amount of time that you've been here. It's really appreciated. And I think that we learn something new about everybody every time we come to the meeting. There's always one something, like who knew that Dean Grant wasn't? I come from a long line of fur trappers. My grandfather was, and all of his furs were brought annually to the North Bay Fur Traders Association. My uncle took over, he sold his trap line, we're still in touch with that person, and hear exactly what you said, right? That, you know, because the market for trap, for fur is down worldwide, there's not as many people trapping anymore, and there's not as much business, but it is the world, like it was once upon a time, at least as you said, Councillor Grant, the world's largest fur trapping association.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So there could be, just to further that, there could be potential to, I mean, there are trappers, like, you know, they do exist, so there could be a, opportunity here maybe to, you know, maybe just make some connections between landowners and trappers, possibly with maybe the fur harvester providing a link. So people can access trappers more easily. If not, there are private people that do it. It's just they're gonna wanna make money.
Mhm.
So.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, there's no more comments. We'll have a motion to accept this report, please. Nobody wants to accept this report.
Latimer and Benson.
I have Latimer and Manson. All in favor? All carried. The next is a staff proposal for a committee, a standing committee regarding salary and hourly remuneration for officers and staff. I presume this relates only to non-union personnel because the union's got a 3-year contract.
And that's exactly the rationale for it, Councillor Morton, is that we do have this bylaw 2021-18 that's outdated now that we do have a unionized workforce. And early on in my time here, I know the mayor mentioned reviewing the remuneration for council members. He wanted to see the amount lowered because it had been passed just prior to this council coming on board. And that bylaw also states that it would be reviewed once in the lifetime of each council. And so somewhere between now and then, and because we're between now and the end of your term, it needs to be reviewed. And since it is severely outdated right now, including with all the rates that haven't, you know, these are on here since 2021. Instead, not a standing committee, but an ad hoc committee that would just look at it this one time. So that we can bring this bylaw that was drafted in 2018.
So the report looks like it is identifying 4 members of this committee, but there's no recommended names.
Because you should, as council, appoint, I'm suggesting two council members with me and, you know, the deputy clerk to be there to minute the meeting.
I'd be willing to be on that committee.
Councillor Latimer. No other volunteers? I guess I'll be on that committee.
I'll be in touch about some dates then with the 2 of you, if this gets passed.
Okay, so the resolution would be council has received the CAO report retitled being in a bylaw to establish salary and hourly remuneration grid for officers and staff and considered the analysis and options and recommendations found within. Now, therefore, be it resolved that an ad hoc committee of council be struck to present recommendations to council with respect to updating this bylaw, and that this committee consists of the following members: Councillor Latimer, Councillor Morton, CAO, and the deputy clerk. All motion by Counselor Latimer. And Counselor Norton, I guess. All in favor? All in favor. The next report I have is on the CMO depot operations agreement.
May I speak to that, Counselor?
Yes, I was just going to say, it looks like it's from the Public Works Department.
In the report that I provided with the agreement, it was basically the background history of how the province is moving forward to a circular economy. Interestingly enough, a little tidbit of information is that we remove 5 billion ton of palladium metals out of the ground to make televisions, refrigerators, cell phones, etc. And approximately 3 billion ton of that gets thrown into the landfills. So now they're trying to create a circular materials economy where more of that product is recycled. When they developed recycling programs, it fell on the shoulders of municipalities to pay for the programming to recycle. So now the province has looked at the way we operate, and they're going to make producers of recycling material responsible for the payment to municipalities to capture recycling material. Through this process, however, there has been challenges as they work through how that structure may look like. I know that the CAO had brought the agreement to council this evening for consideration. However, after reviewing, we had a meeting with CMO on Monday, and there are discrepancies in the agreement. It did state in the agreement that we would begin the transition date on January the 1st, 2025, which is incorrect. It is actually April the 1st, 2025. In the agreement, it also says that there would be an 8.45% automatic deduction because MPAC identifies that 8.45% of our population is a commercial land use. There are non-eligible sources. Those sources are commercial, such as the Columbia, Parks Ontario, Chios Park, and believe it or not, even ourselves as a municipality are non-eligible sources.
So, sorry, just to interrupt, non-eligible sources mean that we can't collect from these particular entities, the recycling, without being penalized or pay for it.
Yeah, just as you're explaining, if you can make it really simple, just because maybe I'm alone here, I
No,
don't
it's
know if
okay.
I am, but I really am having a hard time understanding all like what's involved and what this contract's about. So, just as you're explaining, just feel free
Understanding
to.
that there was no one here for a few years, I totally.
You're not
You got what
insulting
you're
me as
saying.
you bring this to a
Okay.
basic level, that's what
Yeah,
I'm
but
suggesting.
if I can speak back, do you remember a few months back, I brought a lady onto our council meeting called Janet Robbins, and she spoke about the new recycling and that this was about to hit us. And about to hit us meant we would receive this contract that this circular materials has now been tasked by the Ontario government to institute across the province. Within this new recycling program, we must either pay for ourselves to deliver recycling materials to a depot, which happens to be in North Bay, or that we contract through circular materials, their contractor, who we now know is GFL. So this council opted back then, before your time, last council did, and then you reconfirmed at the time when I came on that we don't want to have any part of delivering those materials, that we would have circular materials contractor come to us to pick up the recycling that we would collect. The Ontario government is saying, Ontario government is saying, okay, now here's your contract, But as part of this contract, you agree that beginning April first of 2024, and they erred in it. We brought it to their attention before Ann came in, and they just never got back to us until Monday, but sent us a contract to sign. So that, we know that's wrong in the contract. And also we have to agree on how we're going to treat those who are not eligible, that we're not allowed to, without a cost penalty, to collect from. So before we sign this agreement, we need council to decide how we're going to collect from non-residents, because they're not eligible in a contract for us to collect from. They're not part of our municipality. So we know that we've already had issues with the fire, as you know, and since then we've instituted through our bylaw a non-user payment for recycling and garbage. Now this contract from the through the Ontario government essentially says we can't collect from those who are not eligible unless we pay now. We face a penalty for collecting from others who are businesses in our community, churches, places of worship, schools, we don't have any, and our own municipality. If we should dump our recycling at the recycling depot, we get penalized for that. So the choice that we have to make at some point before signing this contract is, how do you want to deal with those who are not eligible without us facing a penalty that is burdened by the taxpayer? So for example, we have agreements right now with Kiosk, not in our municipality, but a park, that we collect they bring their garbage to us, we deliver it, we charge them $2,500 a year. The Canadian Ecology, the same thing, Samuel de Champlain Park, Columbia. So we have to redo those agreements once you decide how we're going to either charge them or accept it for free and bear a penalty.
And this is recycling.
Recycling.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the common sense person in the room says,
Wow.
why would they not just put their recycling in the trash then?
Right.
I guess we would have to reject it. Complicated.
It is
It
complicated.
seems stupid.
It does seem, contrary.
Sure, that's a politically appropriate word.
Because like, for instance, Samuel Champlain Park is ran by the provincial government. The provincial government is telling us that either we do not accept the recycling material, we do accept it and take a penalty for accepting it, or we ask Parks Ontario to place a bin in their park and remove it themselves at their cost. So how crazy is it the province isn't allowing the province to use the recycling program that the province has initiated and then bear the cost anyhow in the long run? Which is just a particular
And we
crazy.
ourselves are going to be penalized financially for recycling.
And so just on timelines, sorry if I may, is our compliance, what's the, what are our,
So-
what are the timelines of when we're supposed to have this contract signed? And, you know, it happens a lot that, there's lots of rules and compliance related things and there's, you know, are there penalties? Like what's the, you know, is there any risk? Because, you know, sometimes it's gonna take us a bit to figure things out.
And that's why we're saying tonight that based on the response that we received in Monday's meeting, this whole contract didn't arrive until a week and a half ago. And then I posed the questions, they hadn't answered them, and then I got on the phone with them, and so now we're saying, as staff, let's put the brakes on signing this. They can wait until we can talk about it at the next meeting, and Ann and I can work together to bring you more specifics with some, as we were just suggesting tonight, the options that you have as council to consider. Accepting non-eligible sources, their recyclable materials, and the taxpayer pays for that in the penalty that we must pay for accepting recycling materials from those who the province says we should not be collecting from, and if we do, we pay a penalty. Or, so we're gonna bring those options to you at the next council meeting to discuss further and.
Then
Yeah.
I just have lots of questions because I'm trying to understand. Now, if the recycled material comes in under the conditions from, let's say, your Kelvin resident, within the conditions, then
We get paid,
we get paid for it.
yes.
Well, basically, Circular Materials Ontario, when council decided to opt into the program, we're still offering the exact same level of service, It's just that we're going to be compensated for it. So the recycling center would still operate with our staff. However, they have to follow their rules. So we become the service provider. So basically, we're a contractor to the province, and then we're compensated for it. The transition date counselor grant is April 1st, 2025. I have been a part for many years of a depot only. That's our type of recycling center. I've been part of a working group, and I just had another meeting with them on Friday. And a lot of the municipalities, because it's still changing the agreement as they're working through the process, have basically told CMO that they will not sign the contract, and they've signed the contract literally like a month away from the transition date. That is not what they want to have happen, and I would think, being kind, that's not what we would want to happen to them either. However, we are pushing back and saying we need the time to speak to our council. We need the time to decide on how we're going to deal with the recycling. And I myself also need the time to like crunch numbers to see what 8.5445% may look like. Maybe it's only a few $100s for council to consume and the township. However, there was discussion that if we allow louder to use the recycling facility, that increase could go to 25%. So, CMO did reach out and they gave us a little exercise to do at the landfill for Tuesday, Saturday and Tuesday. And we're gonna see how many people from Louder actually use the recycling, Calvin residents versus commercial residents. And we may be able to shrink that number down quite a bit. So basically tonight, the CAO and I are recommending to council to defer the matter until we can present council with more solidified answers.
And they're not happy that.
So one option could be we pay the penalty and pass it on to the commercial businesses and the louder people.
Could have a bin just specifically for them, and we could, because CMO, non-eligible sources, just to give you a quick figure, they say that non-eligible source material is worth $200 a ton. And I believe we're paying like not that at all with our current people. So it's very frustrating for all the municipalities as we work through this program, but I feel that like the CEO had said, I think we need to defer the matter this evening. Just so we could bring more education to the council to make a better decision.
And one that's gonna benefit everyone. And I mean, we talked, Ann and I have talked about the fact that we know through the fire exercise that we have 23 residents in water. Let's be realistic about how much of recycling material they're going to contribute to our landfill on an annual basis. It's not, it'll be up. We need to take the hardline approach that we did with the fire in this recycling, when we know there are 23 residents and some of them don't use our, but then do we charge them for it when we don't know how to build them? So that's, we ran into that with the fire and that's what happened, right? Kiosk, it's easy because it's a park, we're not allowed to. If we do, we have to find a way to charge them, or they get their own bin. Same with the park, same with the others, right? So I think your decisions will be easy when we're able to have the time to bring you some specific recommendations and options, and that you can consider. So we pushed back and said, we're not signing, and they said next week or 2 weeks from now. We said, nope, October.
Maybe.
Yeah, is what we said. Yeah. is what we said.
Council
Yeah.
decision, and I think that's it makes a lot of sense because we have percentages, we don't have real numbers, right? So information, in my opinion as a counselor is we need more information, and it is what it is.
I agree.
And I'm not willing to sign at this exact moment, so it's just me.
It's pretty simple, then it would appear that we don't need a motion. We're just going to defer it to the next meeting until staff has a chance to review it.
We would appreciate that, Deputy Mayor.
To bring you
So
off.
we don't need a resolution, just move on to the next item.
Just defer it.
Okay, next one, next item on the agenda is regarding an amendment to bylaw user fees and charges. There's no bylaw or resolution attached to it, but the recommendation to council is to approve the wording changes to bylaw 2024-54 by removing the words per repeal of bylaw 2007-013, which we defeated in at the previous August 27th meeting. So they just want to remove those words. I guess we'd need a mover and a seconder to remove those. I don't have a resolution in my package. Madam.
We have brought back the bylaw, where I have made the changes. So that resolution is agreeing to the report, and so on that resolution, you'll see the changes. So the report is that I'm bringing back bylaw 2024-54, amendment to bylaw 2024-47, based on the recommendations to approve the wording change to this bylaw by removing per repeal of bylaw 2007-13. So if you look behind the report.
So if I may, we're simply removing the words.
Right. That bylaw, council decided not to repeal, but defeat it. And when you passed, so the example behind there on resolution 2024-296, council passed this bylaw with the wording per repeal of bylaw 2007-13. But a resolution previous to that, you had defeated that repeal.
So the lesson that we learned in this is that last council meeting, there was a motion to repeal the bylaw for the dogs.
Dogs and license.
And then the next motion was that you accept a change in the fee schedule, but it presumed that you had passed the motion to repeal the dog pound.
So we just need a mover and a seconder to make an amendment to that resolution 2024-296.
I do have another question though. So does that mean now that we're gonna put? So we agreed as a council to remove the pound fee.
Yes,
So if,
and to add or increase the commissioner of oath
yes, so
on Schedule A.
if we vote for this amendment, are we reinstating the fee or simply voting to change?
The wording,
Just to change his wording.
period. I'm not
Okay.
bringing back a new bylaw.
All
It's
right.
the amendment to the bylaw that was passed, removing the wording from the resolution where you as council defeated the.
So it's a wording
It's a
issue
wording.
in the resolution, plain and simple. Okay, it's not that confusing when you explain it. I just,
Yeah, I would have explained it, but
yeah,
Councillor Morton took that opportunity. But I did feel it could be confusing,
okay.
so it does make sense that I could explain.
All right, well, I'm good then.
Great. So you do need a mover and a seconder, and then we'll re-sign the changes.
Okay, do we have a mover and a seconder?
Councillor Manson and Councillor Morton. Oh, sorry, Latimer.
You've become Councillor Mortimer again, have you?
Yeah, slipping back.
All in favor? All in favor is carried. Next is the ABCs, North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority. Our next meeting is tomorrow night. We had an executive meeting last week. There's nothing new to report. Next meeting is the Planning Board, Councillor Grant.
I have not had a meeting since. I have nothing to report.
Next meeting is refresh our physicians recruitment, and they don't have meeting till October. And next item is the OPP Detachment Board.
I've also not had a meeting since. They only meet quarterly, so I do not have a report.
And then I guess we're at the end here. We don't have any closed meetings, so we need a mover and a seconder for the confirm the proceedings of of council be approved. Item number 11.
The Grant and Counselor
Man,
Manson. So sorry, I'm forgetting the M's.
You know, Manson, Morton, and Mortimer, you're having problems, right? All in favor?
Yeah.
And finally, we got a motion for adjournment.
Counselor Grant.
Everybody jumps on that one. Okay, we're adjourning at 7:10. Thank you very much for your attendance and your assistance in this meeting. All in favor? Carried.
Special job even distance, Counselor.
Safe travel, Bill.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Welcome.
I'm sure I'll talk to you all by phone.